Hi, Scorpio Sun and Rising. Welcome to your November 2023 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Well, as the month of November begins, the Sun is in your sign, and you're just coming off of a lunar eclipse, the final eclipse in the pair of eclipses between you and your opposite sign of Taurus. So that eclipse on October 28th is at 5 degrees of Taurus, and because it's a lunar eclipse, it's a powerful full moon, and at every full moon, the sun is opposing that moon sign. So that means that the sun is engaged at 5 degrees of Scorpio, and so it does impact you because of that. So that is just a few days before the month ends and November begins, so that might be very fresh, whatever occurs at that time. And that means that the lunar eclipse is happening in your 7th house of committed partnerships, so there could be a lot going on in terms of that. And so on the 4th of the month, Saturn turns direct at 0 degrees of Pisces, and that's in your 5th house of romance. So, what has, now that Pisces, that Saturn is direct, I want you to think about your attitude towards love, because there could be quite a bit of serious consideration given to this area of life. And this is actually an area of life that is not necessarily we would automatically associate with serious matters. This is the house of love, but it can be love affairs, so not necessarily committed love. Like the 7th house is the commitment, but the 5th house is the fun. This is the house of pleasure. In astrology, this house is ruled by Leo, and Leo's ruler is the sun. So it's just kind of like, it's also the house of creativity, of children, of your leisure activities, your hobbies, the kind of fun things you like, the things you like to do for fun. And so this can mean that you are taking this area seriously. So maybe you've been back and forth about creative matters in terms of like whether or not you should be taking yourself seriously as an artist. Maybe you want to more than anything, but you fear that you don't have what it takes. And sometimes these things may be just personal blockages where the person has always wanted to do something, but they don't know if they have the right stuff. And it's interesting because Saturn can indicate discipline. And a lot of people tend to think that artists are just kind of like flakes, and they don't really, they're not reliable, they're not ambitious. They might be kind of different than the average person, but those that are successful, I guarantee you that the vast majority of them are disciplined. They do have a work ethic, and they don't just do things willy-nilly. And with love, sometimes, actually, when I think about it, I can't think of at least a sun sign Scorpio person being flippant when it comes to the subject matter of love. But there might be some of you who have a lot of Sag energy, and, your moon sign could be anything. Maybe your moon sign is Gemini, whatever. But this can be the time when even those of you who have commitment issues might really say, okay, I'm taking love seriously. And so things are progressing, in other words, and this can also be the business that you own. If you kind of like slacked off for some reason or weren't sure the direction you're going in, things will start to build because Saturn has to come out of its shadow. On the 8th, Venus goes into Libra, and this is your 12th house, and Venus is going into the sign that it rules, so it's very like cooperative with that energy. So for everybody, that's good because it's consistent with what Libra represents. But in your case, this is a 12th house. This is kind of like behind the scenes. You may be dating someone and you're not necessarily advertising this fact to other people. Venus has been, before that, Venus was in the 11th house, which can be, friendships and groups. And maybe you meet someone in your socializing, but you don't want other people to know about this for whatever reason. Typically, I would say because you want to be able to maybe develop something without other people's input. But again, as a Scorpio, you do tend to be quite secretive. So maybe this is your uh, MO all the time. Yeah, I mean, there might be a few cases where there is some kind of like third party situation going on, clandestine romances because of cheating. Not saying that lightly, but just being realistic. But I think, at least my experience has been that Scorpio is not a sign that really believes in that kind of thing. Like you take fidelity very seriously. So there might not be very many Scorpios who would actually participate in something like that. But if you do have some kind of artistic project, you might be kind of doing it behind the scenes and not speaking on it with people that you know. That's another possibility. On the 13th, the new moon is at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So that in your first house, that new beginning, and that is a whole new cycle for you. Um, what kind of things do you want to manifest in the upcoming cycle? These are things to think about. This can be a great time for Scorpio individuals because you might feel more energized. I'm talking about during this whole solar period, starting in around October 23rd. Might feel energized by the sun going into your sign or coming into your first house if you're Scorpio rising. And this just adds to that new beginning type of energy. On the 22nd, the sun goes into Sag. So this is a time of the year where money matters can really start to kind of heat up in a good way. And a couple of days after that, Mars goes into Sagittarius. Now, Mars is an inner planet, so it's never far from the sun, but I shouldn't say that because sometimes, like last year, at this time, Mars was actually probably, yeah, it was in Gemini for sure. It was retrograding until the beginning of 2023. So Mars was actually stuck in your other house, which was the house that you rule, the 8th house, for months at a time. And there may have been, at this time last year, there may have been some kind of fight over money that was shared by more than, whether it's a divorce that you're having or an inheritance issue or other issue within the family. And that might have kind of like delayed some of your financial, you might have felt like blocked in some way because of that, like your ability to earn money. Or I suppose it may have helped you in the sense that you were able to come up with alternatives. If there was any kind of issue with that, it may not have affected the money that you personally earned, because this is the eighth house of shared resources. But now, this is a time where you haven't had Mars in the second house for quite a while. So you may be like really revved up and ready to go to be earning your own money. And this is like that hustling energy, Mars in the second house. And so maybe, and this, I don't know exactly when Thanksgiving is this year. I'm talking about from a United States standpoint. I think Canada has Thanksgiving too. But it is around that time. So this is that is what officially kicks off the holiday period, which lasts until the end of 2023. It's like about at least like a 5 week period. And because of that, that can indicate a lot of extra work for some people who are in certain fields. For other people, if you're in the kind of field where it's not really dependent on the holiday season, you may even work a little job that's seasonal, who knows? Or if you have your own business, maybe that starts to heat up. And then on the 27th, we have a full moon at 4 degrees of Gemini. Again, that is the opposite house of Sagittarius. So that's the 8th house. That was the house that I'm talking about, was very much in play from August until January last year, going into the beginning of this year with Mars. So the full moon here is an early degree of Gemini. So this can be some kind of, maybe this is kind of the final decision, or it's closing the curtain on something that took place that had to do with other people's money. Because there might have been some periods that heated up with that, and that were there was more contention. It was very contentious. But this was more in the past, almost a year ago, when all of that took place. So the 8th house is your house in astrology. This can be any kind of situation where you have to let go of something. It might be an obsession or an addiction. It might be that you're doing shadow work. Then you are coming to terms with certain emotions that have been very difficult for you, Scorpio, and allowing them to come to the surface to be released. This can be a very a time of detox. Now, it might be emotional detox because the 8th house is a water house. But it can be when secrets come out. So again, these back-to-back full moons, the first one being a lunar eclipse in your opposite sign, this can be really a time for relationships to be, one-on-one relationships to be very deeply felt. Okay, that's what I have for you, Scorpio. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I'm promoting my double readings. I have double astrology readings, natal chart interpretation, full-length readings for a special price. And so that's called my deep dive. I have another one with the astrology and the tarot called The Whole Enchilada. And I have standalone readings as well. You can find out more information at the link below. Thank you for listening. Have a great month. Bye.